All right, everybody, welcome to this webinar. See some similar faces, so that's always great. I'm Geert, the founder of Northbridge, and very happy and excited to introduce Ash Cross to all of you guys. She's a career coach with many years of experience, and hopefully, in this webinar, she can give you guys some good guidance and insights from the transition from classroom to careers and everything in between. Um, so how this is going to work today, I'm going to hand it over to Ash in a little bit. If you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Um, and then maybe during the webinar, some of your questions will already be answered. If not, at the end of the webinar, we will just answer any questions that you guys have. At that point, you can also like raise your hand or unmute yourself or just put it in the chat. Um, and yeah, let's get started. Ash, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Garrett. I'm so excited to chat with everybody, and thank you, Northbridge, for having me on here. Uh, Garrett and I are over here in Pittsburgh. So we connected when I started seeing him post about international students and job search resources. Most of the students I work with are international. So a quick bit about me and my background. Whoop, no. All right, here we go. I've been coaching as a career coach for the past 12 years. I worked with over 3,000 international students. And most recently, I finished up working with Carnegie Mellon University for the past 4.5 years, wrapped up back in December with them. I worked with the Computational Finance Master's Program, and I worked with the College of Engineering, their 16 Master's Engineering majors as well. Uh, while CMU was more focused on grad school, I have also worked with the state college level and private liberal arts majors. So, really, all across the board. And I love working with international students. There's just so many different dimensions to recruiting in the US that are different. And I love hearing everyone's thoughts on how it was different in their country and what types of challenges they're facing. I will start this off by saying the US job market right now sucks. Just want to be plain and simple there. The job market's tough. The internship market is incredibly competitive. So hopefully today what I can offer you is not only some resources, but also some way to structure your internship or job search. And even if you're not to the job search yet, hopefully you'll get enough ideas that you can start implementing things and being proactive. So that's my goal. So we're going to cover a few different things. And please, like Geert said, please pop in your questions in the chat. I always want these to be interactive. I get nervous if I'm talking too much and I'm not hearing from the audience because I want to make sure that you get what you want out of this webinar. But here's my agenda. I figured we'd talk about the landscape of recruiting here in the US in general, how to structure your job search, like where to start. We're also going to talk about resumes, networking, and the job applications themselves. I'm also going to be sharing some different resources. So I may go back and forth with my computer screen. I apologize if that messes anybody up, but you will leave here with a handful of resources you can immediately use. All right. So, what's tough about US campus recruiting? I bet you all already know this part. So, no one defines what campus recruiting is. So, standard recruiting is often like a job becomes available. So, a job is posted, people apply, people go through the hiring process, but there's only one job or so many jobs. Well, when it comes to internship search or campus recruiting for full time roles, they're hiring a cohort. So there are more positions available. However, it's still incredibly competitive. And when it comes to getting support from universities, it's called a self directed search. So, really, you are the one who decides the direction. Your career services staff or internship coordinators or whomever you're working with at your school, they can provide guidance overall. But really, there are so many different ways to tackle the job search that it's up to you to figure out where to start and how to navigate it. Um, so another big thing that I'd like to clarify here too, because international students, sometimes you come from a placement mentality where your career services is able to connect you directly with employers. Here in the US, it's a bit different. University career services offices provide events, they provide job postings, they provide opportunities for one-on-one coaching and workshops. So they also have a ton of great online resources. I'll go over some of those as well today. But ultimately, we're not placement. We're not making phone calls and getting you set up with the exact right employer of your dreams. So just want to be also very clear with setting expectations there, that that's not really what university career services are for. They are to help as many people as possible get clarity on what they're looking for and have the resources to support them in a self-directed search. Um, I also want to talk about the timelines. Timelines are super intense right now. So, as I was wrapping up my time with the computational finance program, we were having students apply for internships before they even started the program, 2, 3 months out before they started the program. Now, some of you might see even internship postings will start January, say January 2025 or summer 2026 internships, which is absolutely insane to me. How are you supposed to compete? How are you supposed to prepare that? Employers know that it's ridiculous too. I want to reassure you of that. Um, they are trying to keep candidates engaged that entire time as well. If you don't apply the second it's posted, it's not the end of the world, especially with internships, because it's going to be such a long window of recruitment. Generally, historically, fall of the year you're entering grad school or fall semester in general, you'd be recruiting for the summer afterward. Like I said, those timelines moved up. So working with the career services office, working closely with them can help. But also being able to track your applications, being able to look at your strategy, that type of thing is incredibly important. Full time, it's a little bit more consistent. Full time is usually the semester before you graduate, because if you apply too far in advance, they're not going to be able to hire you right away, get you to start. Um, and then something to keep in mind too, again, the internship, the full time cohorts, those are going to be, there's going to be lots of positions, but it's a lot smaller than you think. It's a lot more competitive. So over the years, we've seen the number of internship spots decrease. And we're seeing it more with AI. You're probably seeing a lot of layoffs in the US in finance and tech in particular around AI. So there is that diminishing availability of entry level roles. So being mindful of that and the level you're competing against, you might be competing against people with multiple internships, multiple jobs who are maybe going back to school, or people with more research experience than you, anything like that. So it can be very challenging to know where you actually stand compared to the applicant pool. So even if you say pass an employer screening, you're not necessarily going to get that interview. Or if you do well on the interview and you don't move on, doesn't mean that it was necessarily your fault. It means somebody was more competitive or better fit. Another thing that I find international students struggle with are the delays between applying and hearing back and or never hearing back, right? So in the US, it's really common for employers to ghost or leave you on red in terms of they receive your application and then you never hear back. Well, part of that is they want to keep you around in case they do have openings in the future. Part of it is realistically the high volume of applicants they're getting. They're trying to turn things around and let you know where you stand. But realistically, they can't necessarily do that with everybody. And you should not hold your breath waiting for a rejection. I once got a rejection from an employer 18 months after I started working for them in a different role. So if they're not responding, move on and be pleasantly surprised if you hear back. But it wasn't uncommon for my students to apply for roles in October and then their classmates are going through the interview process and everything, and it's frustrating. Then suddenly they hear back in January or February for their interview because employers had more openings or couldn't fill it with the first round of candidates. So that challenge is something I want you guys to be ready for, or if you're already applying, you're probably used to it already. And it's tough. So make sure that you're making your connections with your classmates. You're not losing hope. You're doing something to take care of yourself. You're also connecting with the resources on your college campus. So, like a counseling center, the career center, student success. You want to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with a team to help you through this very difficult time. And also, what's frustrating too is it's unclear what US employers really want. Job postings are vague and sometimes really useless or super over optimistic. So they might have general phrases like, we value written and communication skills or initiative. And I never want to see that on somebody's resume. Written communication skills, initiative, problem solver. Those are phrases we use in job descriptions, but really we want to see examples of how you've used that before in a work like context. Um, so job postings also sometimes they are getting super specific and they don't need to be. In the US and HR will call it a unicorn. They're looking for a unicorn, something that doesn't exist. I've had some people talk to me about job postings where they're describing a programming language that has been around for 3 years, but they want 5 years of experience. Sometimes HR doesn't know. So if you meet 70% of the qualifications, go ahead and apply. Um, don't count yourself out, but just know it's really normal to not know what the employer wants, even as you're applying. And then the interview process, too, like I said, you can get every question right and still not get the job. Something could also happen on their end, budget cuts. They filled it with an internal candidate that they weren't allowed to share, or somebody knew someone, and so that person had an internal referral to move forward. So these are some of the frustrations of campus recruiting. Like I said, these are kind of the obvious things you know. So let me break it down for you in terms of how you should structure your recruitment efforts. So, very first thing everybody jumps to is let me go on Indeed, let me go on LinkedIn, or if you're on university using Handshake or one of those job platforms, let me hop on there and start applying the second I can. That is not going to help. You need to know what you're looking for. So, a role for a data scientist is going to be very different from a role for a project manager, from a quantitative researcher. So, you want to pay attention to what those roles are actually calling for in terms of the skills and make sure you have that. So, I always like people to start with make a list of what you like and what you don't, what you want and what you don't. So, for example, as you're pulling up job descriptions through whichever database, go ahead and pull up an Excel sheet or make a table, and go ahead and put the job description in one spot, put what you like about it, what you don't like about it here. So that way each time you do this, you get a little bit more clear about what you're looking for. So then as you're browsing through those job postings, you quickly see something that that excites you. Oh yes, I want to hop on that. I want to go ahead and apply right now. You're not wasting time on roles that don't interest you or you don't meet the qualifications for. So, like, also make sure that you are applying for the right roles. If they're specifying a certain graduation year and you don't fall into that, you aren't eligible. You're going to get a no. So, paying attention to that piece too. Another piece I like students to do is take a look at job descriptions. They might have the same job title, but put them side by side and compare, like, what are the skills they're actually looking for? And what are those trends across job titles? Or does it vary based on industry, what somebody might be doing? Additionally, AI, ChatGPT is easily my best friend. And I know a lot of career centers are nervous about AI replacing them. I am not worried about that personally. I would rather you use AI before you get to me so we can have a deeper conversation about your job search efforts or your career interests. So, some ways to use ChatGPT might be popping in job descriptions and asking it, please identify the top 10 technical keywords or technical skills that are role specific in these job postings. Or can you pull 25 recent job postings from name these three databases? Um, Tell me what they have in common. Again, always specify technical skills because otherwise it's going to give you those nonsense written and communication skills, um, and motivation and initiative and that type of thing. Now, if you do want to know those, and those are valuable and we should know those. Again, it's better demonstrated in your resume through examples of how you've done it before. So if you went above and beyond on a team project and you were able to extend that into a whole individual research course in a semester and get it published. So that shows a lot of initiative and a lot of passion, for example. Um, so what I'm getting at with the soft skills, with the communication initiative, you can actually ask ChatGPT, hey, for this particular role, please provide context in which these soft skills are actually used in the workplace setting. So that might include who you're talking to, what types of projects you're working on, what types of delivery for those projects, anything like that. I have had that be really helpful for my students in the past to, again, give them some context for both their resume and the interview. How is this actually used beyond the job description? So, first is knowing what you're looking for. Then from there, you can go ahead and either build your experience if you're brand new and you don't have experience yet, or you can take a look at what experience you have. So I like to always start with a fresh Microsoft Word document and just dump out everything I've done that I can think of. So this might be extracurriculars, these might be projects tied to different coursework, these might be volunteer or leadership roles, or maybe contests or competitions I was part of. Uh, all of those, aside from like the classic internship and work experience, all of those can go on, say, a master resume. As you're brainstorming what type of experience you can put on a resume. A big thing here, and why I have it in bold, is track your projects and accomplishments quarterly. You are on a semester or quarter basis already. You are not going to remember what project you worked on last semester and what specific methods you use or what your results are. You're going to make it a lot easier for yourself if you're keeping an accurate record for yourself of what you're working on, what methods you're using, what are the results you're getting, and what you would do differently next time. These are also questions that can help you build a portfolio as well to demonstrate those course projects. And these are the types of questions that'll help you create stronger resume bullets moving forward. So again, if you don't have experience, start thinking about based on what types of roles I'm looking for. What are the skills I can gain through clubs, through course projects, through internships or volunteer work? How can I go ahead and build that profile based on what I'm looking for? Or if I have that experience already, how can I narrow that experience to look like the role I want? So, all right. So creating your resume, everybody thinks this is the first step, which is why I focused on the first two steps. All right, so most schools will give you a resume template or a resume AI to go ahead and score your resume. I'm always wary if there are percentages attached because keywords are great, but people talk about passing the ATS. The ATS application tracking system, that's just what you apply through and submit your resume into. Uh, while it can rank your resume based on the job details, most of the recruiters I've talked to, I'd say 90% of the recruiters I talk to still are looking at every resume coming in. So, with that in mind, they might only be spending a couple seconds on each resume. So, 6 seconds is typically the average number we hear. Um, so, you need to provide those keywords, but in context of what you're actually doing. So, it's not just trying to get past a by, it's actually trying to get past a human looking at it and saying, does this person look like the job description I'm recruiting for? You don't want it to include everything you've ever done. I would save that for your master resume where you can copy and paste bullets from it in the future. You do want to make sure your resume is easy to scan and you're being strategic with any formatting and consistent. But these are kind of the big things: technical skills, context, and metrics. Those are really what we're looking for on the resume. And we want to know what you did, not necessarily what your whole team did. So give me a second and I'm gonna pull up my student template. And all these links I'm going to be sharing with you. I'm going to make sure, whoop, I'm seeing a delay. Can you hear me still, Geert? Okay, perfect. All right, I'm taking my video off just to strengthen my connection. But all the links that I'm showing you today, all these websites or templates, you're going to have these available after the webinar. I'll make sure they're there. But anyway, this is a pretty classic student resume template. You can also look up Harvard's student resume template. A lot of people like that. But really, most of us use some variation of this. I don't like columns personally. Um, that that does mess up when the ATS tries to parse your resume. So splitting it into that section, so it can look really messed up on their end. But that said, everybody's a little different. Sometimes that's not the case. So I like a standard document where I can go in and make easy updates to change this as needed. You're usually going to start with your education section first. You only need your graduation date. But whatever is up here on this first third of your resume, that's what they're going to notice first. So education, if you don't have experience, your relevant projects can go here. You don't have to give an actual title of your project. Keep in mind the recruiter looking at your resume might not know what exactly things mean. If you're getting highly technical into machine learning, for example, or computer vision, um, like some of my students, I encourage them to think about from a project perspective, what conveys your technical skill that you're using in that project in a way that the recruiter or generalist can understand. And is this tied to an academic course or is this something you completed independently? How long was this project going on? The second you start working on a project, you can put it on your resume. Make sure this says to present and make sure you're keeping an accurate description. Do not say that you are constructing this model with uh, with an intention of getting 100% accuracy. That is nice. We all want that, but that doesn't help the recruiter understand your technical ability. So planning to conduct X by doing Y and Z, that kind of formula is going to be a lot more helpful. So we understand where you're at in the process, but what you're trying to accomplish without trying to fake where you're at. Experience and skill section, additional information. Sometimes you'll see this more often uh, when it comes to international student resumes. When you're coming to the US, you might have this also saying interest. Um, anyway, I'm not here to talk about the resume for an extensive amount of time. I just wanted to share this template with you all. And let's go back to, here we go. All right. But I did want to share this part because a lot of people miss this when it comes to resumes. We're really looking for this action verb, metric, past project, and methods used. If you don't have the metric, don't worry about it. However, most resumes I look at are only going to have maybe 1 to 2 metrics listed if they're a student. And it's something that can really make you stand out compared to your competition. So often I'll see big descriptions like conducted research or managed a lab, when really, if we can get into the specifics of what you did and how you did it, so these specific details of what kind of qualitative and quantitative methods you used, how many participants, what were you doing with the data or the research, that provides me with a lot more information than just conducted research or managed a lab. So if you can provide some sort of idea about the scope of your work, how many people you worked with, how many things you impacted, um, did you streamline something or automate something? Did you work with people all over the country? So this is quarterly networking events. Um, so even with these, there can be improvements on it. I'm honestly a lot harder on my students than people have to be when it comes to resumes, but that's also because I've been reviewing them for 12 years. So talk with your career services or check out their resume resources online for more tips on that. Speaking of career services, most of us will offer a workshop of some kind on LinkedIn or some sort of tool or resources on our websites. I have a LinkedIn masterclass that I'm going to put up on my website starting next month. That is really going to walk people through how to how to optimize their profile and why, which I'll get into in a second. How to network on LinkedIn and what types of phrases to use. Um, and then how to really like build your brand identity, or if you're a freelancer, tie your professional brand into LinkedIn and use it as your portfolio. So that's a series I'm working on, basically a video recordings like this, but with examples. LinkedIn is amazing. A lot of people will stop using it the second they're done with college. But I think it's still worth you going ahead and connecting with your classmates, your staff, your faculty, anybody like that on LinkedIn. If you don't have a portfolio or you are a career changer and you want to convey what you're doing currently toward that career change, you can add things in a featured section on LinkedIn. Connecting with alumni and others, that's important too. I really like teaching my LinkedIn users how to follow companies of interest and professionals so they have jobs show up on their home feed. They don't have to click the LinkedIn job search tool. So if you're following enough people in the field you want to be working in, you can like pull up your LinkedIn newsfeed and see people saying, I am hiring for an intern or an entry level such and such. Email me or message me for details. So one of my clients actually used this as a way to follow up with someone, and it did land her an interview pretty quickly. Um, Joining relevant groups can also increase your connections. As a college student, if you're not using LinkedIn for recruiting, the bare minimum should be filling out your profile and having a professional headshot, connecting with people you know, um, and then joining groups like your alumni group, for example. This will allow you to later on build your connections further. So there's also this great, okay, this great tool, not tool, but article I really love on helping you get people to accept your LinkedIn requests. Right after I discovered this, it was LinkedIn free change. So now you can only send 5 personalized requests per month. But what I love about these scripts is you can use these for emails too. All right. So there's some examples. So here's a script for a colleague. So I've never gotten the chance to work with you directly. I've heard rave reviews about your sales technique and ability to work with tough clients. So let me break this down. So hello, so-and-so. You're establishing, okay, we don't have a relationship yet. But it would be even better if they said what company they're working with or what kind of role that they're in. But there's bragging about something specific about the person they're reaching out to. So if you can compliment them or if you can jog their memory into what how you know them, or provide something you have in common. That's why career services, we tend to say, like, reach out to alumni, because alumni naturally, like, going to the same school, you're going to have similar experiences. Alumni usually are more likely to say yes to connecting to you. So just a few more here. So new colleague, former coworker. And again, this is something that I'll make available at the end. But I have personally used some of these scripts. Like, here's one for a networking event. Students, you're going to employer events and panels and whatnot, information sessions. Send this right after talking to somebody at one of those events. That's an easy way to build your network in the field and with the companies you want. But what I was about to say is I personally used some of these. One Friday, I sent out 3 invitations or 3 messages. One was to Kier of, hey, I'd love to connect. So one was with a colleague I worked with 10 years ago. Hey, I'm in town, would love to connect on this date. Do you happen to be available? Here and I both work with international students, so I wanted to learn more about Northbridge and see if that's a tool I'd recommend to my students, which, if you are not familiar with it, I definitely recommend that be your next step after this webinar, is signing up and checking it out. But anyway, now you have some different scripts. See, so no, we're covering a lot of ground. Are you seeing my Canva presentation again now? Perfect.
Yes, but your camera is still off though. Just don't know
Okay.
if you do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it off, see if maybe that helps with the connection. All right. So networking like a pro, like I mentioned, you're already going to these campus events, or if you've identified what type of role or industry you're interested in, you can start kind of curating a plan for the semester or a plan for the month. It doesn't have to be a ton of things. It could be attending a monthly webinar. It could be going to a certain club. It could be taking a look on the college mentorship or alumni platform. Usually it's very similar to LinkedIn. Everybody's got their own version. But again, alumni are more likely to connect with you if they're already linked with the school. And so I highly recommend that as a place to reach out to people too. Um, but I actually have a whole webinar on networking uh, while neurodivergent. So neurodivergent meaning autistic, ADHD, learning differences, anything like that. But really, it's kind of also a guide for networking while being an introvert. So I'll make sure I share that webinar later too. But really, you don't have to leave your dorm to network. You can do it online and through social media. I've made a lot of great connections like here online through social media. So there are ways to continue to build your network without it being as intimidating as, say, like the happy hour idea. And then also, I've had some students land internships by talking with the people there in their soccer league or who are on the same train as them every day. So you're not going to screw up your one and only shot to connect with somebody. So I think reaching out and seeing who they are and also seeing how you can be of value if you can. Um, but really wanting to learn about them and their background and their skills, because that's what's going to help you, not just asking straight for a job or internship. And an old colleague of mine said, be interested, not interesting. Because when we're trying to be interesting, when we're trying to talk about ourselves, we get tongue tied. The words don't come out right and we feel awkward and we feel like everybody's paying attention to us and we might not want that. But asking somebody follow-up questions like, oh wow, I didn't realize you were part of that club, can you tell me how you got started with that? Being genuinely interested in other people will open a lot of doors for you. And so there's a technique we like to teach students about in career services called an informational interview or coffee chat. So that's really, again, trying to learn about someone's career path And then the idea is eventually down the line, after you've formed this relationship, they might be willing to help you in your job or internship search. But really, it's just getting to know people. It doesn't have to be intimidating. Um, so you do want to, again, identify something you have in common and mention something specific about their background that you're interested in. Not just that they work for JP Morgan or they happen to be working in the field you want. I'm really curious how you started working with machine learning as a bio major. Can you tell me more about that? That is something way more specific and way more interesting. And then if you do reach out to people asking for something short, not asking for an hour of their time and not saying, in general, would love to catch up, give them a timeline. Make it easy for them to say yes or no. And a no is not never. It's a not right now. I'm busy. So make your ask 15, 20 minutes sometime in the next 2 weeks. And if they're unavailable, they'll tell you or they won't respond. It's not the end of the world. Sending out a handful of these and just getting used to the concept of reaching out to people can be a really excellent skill to grow. Again, you're not going to ruin your one and only chance. But this is kind of the big thing I wanted to make sure I highlighted for you guys is strategic search. So while we've gone over a lot of stuff you've probably heard from before, if you take nothing else out of this webinar, let this be it. So strategically search, this involves setting up job alerts so you're not constantly looking on every job board. This involves a Boolean search. So this is a more advanced search than what you're probably already doing. You're probably just looking at job titles and getting frustrated when they stop showing up with the job title you want. And then tracking your applications. So simplify.jobs is an excellent way to track your applications to see how many have I actually applied to compared to how many have I scrolled past the past week and collected on my feed. So let's go ahead and exit out of this presentation. I'm going to show you some of these things. So let's go to Google. So you can join me if you want as well. Go ahead and type a job title into Google and put jobs afterward. So human resource jobs. You're going to get this little section that says jobs. You can probably do this with internships too. But you're going to go ahead and click on the button that says plus more jobs. And then you're going to go ahead and see a variety, right? You want to focus on roles that were posted within the past 3 days or yesterday. You can do the past week, but if you're doing full-time search, really needs to be the last 3 days. For internships, kind of depends. You can use this method, but I would also encourage you to use your school's job database in addition to Google Job Alert, because the schools are going to have basically it puts you in a different pipeline when you click on something through your school's job database to go to an employer's website or to go submit an application to them. The employer will either get notified via email if you're applying through just the school database in general, or if you're applying through their website, they've got a little indicator basically saying they found you through Handshake. So they can track the referral source so you can be in a different pile than, say, people who are just applying online. But basically, when you click follow and when you add the different criteria you're looking for, say job type here, I'm actually looking for an internship, not human resource job. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit follow. I can update this area as well to be within precise location, anything like that. But when I click follow, it's going to automatically give me a job alert. So now it's going to send me daily job alerts to my email, and I can change this to weekly. So that's a Google job alert. Most people I work with don't know that this function exists. And what's great about this too is it's pulling from all the job databases you're already looking at anyway. Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, LinkedIn. So now instead of looking on every single job database, you get a job alert sent to your email from the different ones. Do apply on the company website whenever you can. And again, if you're doing full time, try to apply as soon as it's posted. For internship, try to also apply as soon as it's posted, but those tend to last longer too. Do not wait till the deadline, a stated deadline, before applying for anything ever. They could be interviewing already by the time you apply if you just wait. And in this job market, it's even more crucial for you to be on top of it. But this was a Google job alert. The other piece of Google job alert I wanted to share with you, or job alerts and job searches in general, it's called a Boolean search string. So this is how recruiters find you on LinkedIn, but this is also how you can job search more strategically. So again, we tend to look for job titles when we're doing a job search. So I might be looking for a quant analyst role, for example, and then get frustrated when I can't find quant analyst anywhere anymore. Well, really, I've found quant analyst in February if I use keywords like stochastic calculus, if I use keywords like Python or linear regression, like the tools and techniques that you're using, not the job title itself. So Boolean logic, basically it's providing a string of different keywords. So and, or, not, quotes if you want the exact phrase, parentheses to group ideas together, asterisk. This was a really cool one I didn't learn about until the past couple of years. So if you use the asterisk, it actually will do variations of the same phrase. So analyze, analyst, analyst, analytical, anything like that. Tried Boolean logic on Google job alerts, not very successfully. You can do the advanced job search features on Google. It messed with them in the past year, which has made me very sad. But you can use this logic, especially on LinkedIn and Indeed, to combine certain things. You can probably test it on Handshake or your school's job database too. So using these, you can start thinking like a recruiter to see, do you show up at all on LinkedIn or anything for these keywords? And then also you can job search more strategically and find the kind of jobs you actually want. All right, so the third thing I want you to take away, that again, not everybody does this when it comes to their job search, is a tool called Simplify. There are lots of job search trackers out there. Your school might even have one if they have job scans, something like that. I like Simplify. It's a Google Chrome extension, and I've been using it off and on for a few years. So what I love is it does do matches. I'm not too worried about that. I love the job tracker piece. So if I save a job, I can move it from applied to interviewing or archive. And then it's also going to give me a flow chart basically of what it looks like in terms of the jobs I've applied for. Plus, again, I'm an ADHD. I'm applying on a website and I hit apply, but I forgot to track it. I'm going to get a pop-up from Simplify saying, do you want to add this to your application tracker? So that's great. And so you can see it in action. Here's Simplify's little tracker on the side. So if I wanted to autofill, and this is a big thing for students because you guys don't have a lot of time when you're balancing studying, doing different extracurriculars, online assessments, what have you. So when you fill out your Simplify profile, you're uploading your resume, you're filling out all the sections they're going to want on an application anyway. So that completes the workday applications really quick, or even the ones in the other ATS too. So it'll autofill based on your profile and Simplify. But also, I'm here. I want to save this to my Simplify profile. It's already filtered most of this. And then I'll hit Save Job, and then it'll show up on my job search tracker. So now I've got that job description saved too. And that's a big deal because job descriptions will disappear by the time you're interviewing for this role. So you will want to refer back to it. You can even add notes for it. And then one other thing, since you're international students, I wanted to make sure everybody knew about is this Google Chrome extension called the Ultimate H-1B Sponsored Checker. There are different versions of this out there. This is the one I like because when you download it, if you're on LinkedIn or Indeed, it's going to tell you if a company has sponsored in the past 3 years or not, and provide you with a little green icon and some information. So those are my different job search tips for international students. Again, I worked most of my career in career services, so I can't say enough good things about career service offices. They have a ton of online resources. So you definitely need to check their website or book a one-on-one appointment and have them help you go through the website to identify which resources you need right now. They've got different job databases, probably some you didn't realize you had access to. And employer events, when an employer is coming to campus, they're not talking to all the universities, they're talking to you. They're doing a virtual event or something, they might be working with multiple universities. But still, you are getting a contact there that you can connect with on LinkedIn. You are learning information, something about that position or that company that will help you later on. So I highly recommend make sure you're attending employer events. And then also workshops. Not enough people come to workshops. Please go to workshops. This has been a challenge for career services over the past 15 years, getting students to go to workshops. If you don't want to go, please tell them why. That will help them a lot in creating more interesting programs to help you. All right. So I didn't see a lot of questions come in the chat. So I want to invite you all to feel free to go ahead and put questions in the chat. I put my information here. So my website is acrosscareers.com. It's still in progress. If you want specific information relevant to international students, or I'm working on some digital downloads and some different types of workshops and classes next semester, like one specifically for networking. If you're interested in anything like that, feel free to scan the QR code or go to this URL. But yeah, so feel free to open it up to any questions. Here, I just saw one come through. Were there any other questions before that?
I don't think so. I think the one from Chris is the first one.
Okay. So can you talk about soft skills or in-person interview skills that international students might not be aware of for the US marketplace? Ooh, that that's a really good question. And I've got too many thoughts to form a response. Give me a second. So when it comes to soft skills, um, empl- and interview skills, employers do want to know that they like you, they can work with you, they can get along really well with you. And it's frustrating because a lot of my clients are neurodivergent or international. Being able to do the job itself and do it well should be enough. But in the US, it's not. They have to know, like, and trust you. So a smile goes a long way, eye contact goes a long way, or being able to share your thought process. So not just get the right answer, but provide them with how you arrived at that answer. And in interviews as well, providing some examples of some specific examples at that of ways you have done something in the past. So we'll ask questions like, tell me about a time you worked on a team and didn't get along with everybody. Tell me about a time you had to work with multiple deadlines. So we're not asking how you're going to handle it. We're asking how have you handled it in the past, so we can assume how you or interpret how you're going to handle it in the future. So getting into the specifics there can be really helpful. Um, let's see.
I can maybe
Anything?
add. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was gonna add. I think for international students, it's also just super important to not over explain your work authorization. Like a lot of times when you have an interview and the hiring manager asks you, and what is your work authorization? Or I see that you are an international student. What's going on with this? And then a lot of international students just think they have to explain everything about OPT or STEM OPT. But most of the times, the hiring manager like is not super familiar with it. So if you over explain that to them, they're gonna be even more confused. So I think that you should not spend more than like 20, 30 seconds to explain what this is. Just explain in one or two sentences that your work authorization is handled by the university and that there's no additional paperwork or sponsorship needed at this point because you
Mhm.
need to um, and from then there on you can focus on continuing with the interview because um, you still need to show that you are a good fit and you don't the goal of the interview is not to show them that you are authorized to work. So yeah, that is one thing that I would definitely make sure you fully understand how your work authorization works. And also if you are an international student, you already like came to the US and you adapted to the whole college system here, and you should definitely also put that like in your interview. Definitely mention something like that you adapted to the culture here, and that you will most likely also that means that you can easily adapt to the um, environment in this new company. So definitely also try to mention something like that.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too. Talking about adapting to culture, that would be a really good, interesting story, especially if you can get specific about it. Good story for a cover letter or an essay question for employers as part of the application too. Um, Additionally, that part about over explaining in the US, we kind of have this unwritten expectation that your answers to questions, especially behavioral questions, shouldn't really take more than 90 seconds to 2 minutes. So that's also why you want to do mock interviews, even if you think you don't need them. Try them with your career center. Do mock interviews. Go ahead and practice with the virtual interview AI if you have access to one, because you'll want to make the most of that 90 seconds to 2 minutes, while smiling, while remembering what you're actually saying, without feeling the need to memorize every single word. Like we don't need to know every detail of the setup or every specific step involved in implementing this algorithm. We want to know really like what do we basically need to know? What's the action you took? What was the result? But what did you learn that you're bringing into this job because of it? So just wanted to clarify, not clarify, but like reinforce that don't feel the need to over explain. And if you get a question wrong, try to let yourself let it go so you can focus on the other one because that's how the interviewer is feeling too. Okay. And I know, Harish, you've put your hand up a few times. Feel free to unmute.
So I have one personal question because I have no prior experience. So
Mhm.
over in the US, I observed that even applying for internships, they do need require references. So can we keep our professor's name as a reference or no?
Yeah. My caveat here is make sure the professor knows you and remembers
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, that's a good point. So when it comes to references, and I'm working with students on this for letters of recommendation for grad admissions too. So when it comes to references, send them your resume, send them a quick blurb about what you're applying for and why they might be a good person to speak on your behalf about it. But remind them specifically like what project or what you did with them so they can speak to it. So jog their memory a bit. But also definitely ask before you list them out as a reference too.
Um, like I have like same thing, just in case if the like the professor is no longer working with the university, then it would be a different story. So we can't just keep any random professor name. Like we need to make sure that this professor should speak about my related.
Yes. So I'd still stay in touch with that professor even if they leave.
Okay.
I know that part might be challenging.
Yeah. And yeah, so I'm a little bit confused to apply what kind of roles right now, as you said. So should I just give my whole academic skills and ask the ChatGPT what kind of job roles I can apply? Then I should have to shortlist based on that, or
That's the starting point.
okay,
So I often will have students play around with different types of prompts around that. Like, okay, I want a role that allows me to do this, this, and this. I do not want to do this and this. Uh, Please provide me with five sample job titles and a quick description of each. That can be really helpful as a brainstorming tool. I love ChatGPT for shortlisting different ideas.
okay. How can we get the resources you just showed up? So, what is it via email or you gonna Dropbox them?
I say that again. I'm so sorry.
Like how we gonna get the resources you just showed us few websites and
Oh,
extensions.
I'm gonna give it to Geert and we'll post it so it's available on YouTube with this recording.
Sure, thank you.
Um, you can also fill out my if you scan that QR code or you click that last link, I can make sure I send them to you too.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah. And Varun, it looks like, do you think the environment for jobs will change by May 2026? Perhaps with another round of rate cuts from Fed? Oof, this one's a hard one. I feel like every time we predict the future, past couple years, it has not worked in our favor. So I think we can only stay optimistic. Um, so May 2026, I imagine things will look different. I don't imagine I even know what different means though. So I would make sure that you're focusing on skill development, attachment to any one role, um, and focusing on learning the types of things we'll need for the future jobs that are not open yet. I know that's really vague, but basically what I mean was back in the early 2000s, nobody could have conceptualized Uber or DoorDash or any of these different types of companies that exist today. So, and some of these things that grew out of the pandemic with remote work and virtual assistants and whatnot, we weren't expecting. So, even though there are these AI job cuts, or people are blaming job cuts on AI, specifically employers making the case for job cuts because of AI. That means you should probably learn AI and learn to leverage it in the workforce so you can stay on top of whatever type of thing they need next because of it. Here, what do you think?
I mean, like you said as well, it's super tough to predict that. But a few weeks ago, we had a webinar with the immigration law firm, and I guess what you mean with that question is a little bit like, is it still going to be possible for students to get a job on OPT or STEM OPT? And this immigration law firm said that it's probably just going to stay the same and that OPT will still be around in the next years. So you don't probably shouldn't worry about that. And every second Friday of the month, we will have a Q&A with this immigration law firm. So we start in December with that. You can join these webinars as well, and you can also ask this question there because it's tough to answer that. And I think it's really best to answer that or to ask that to an immigration like attorney or. immigration expert. But yeah, just to quickly recap, what they said is that you should not worry about OPT if you are graduating in the spring. And yeah, we recorded this webinar, so we will post this on YouTube and we will write a little summary about it. We will post this on our website and we will post it on LinkedIn as well. But if you have any questions, make sure you reach out to Ash or to me. Uh, we are always happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I don't know if anyone else has any other questions at this time, but I think we are good then. Ash, do you have any last final thoughts?
Definitely feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you found this helpful, I'd love to know what was helpful out of it. But best of luck in your recruiting efforts. And thank you so much for having me, Garrett.
Thank you so much as well. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks everybody for joining. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to us. And we really appreciate you joining us today.